People chase money like it's oxygen. They wake up every morning with one thing on their mind. How can I make more? And that's not wrong. We all need money to live, to provide, to build. But somewhere along the way, people confuse money with wealth. They start believing that if they could just add another zero to that bank account, if they could just buy that car, that house, that watch, then they'd finally feel rich. But here's the truth: money isn't wealth. It's just paper, it's energy, it's a tool. Real wealth is something deeper, something that can't be deposited in a bank or measured by a balance sheet. See, wealth is the ability to feel fulfilled without needing anything external to validate you. It's waking up in the morning with peace in your chest, not pressure. It's walking through your day with a sense of purpose, not panic. It's laughing freely, loving deeply, giving generously, and sleeping soundly. You can have $1 billion and still live in poverty emotionally, starving for meaning, starving for love, starving for peace. And you can have very little, yet walk with a wealth so abundant that people can feel it when you enter the room. I've met people who have more money than they could ever spend, yet they're miserable. They're surrounded by luxury, but empty inside. They buy things to fill the silence, but the silence never leaves. Because here's the reality: you can't fill an internal void with external things. You can't buy your way into fulfillment. You can't purchase peace of mind, and you can't swipe your card for joy. Those things have to be cultivated from within. Real wealth begins when you stop chasing what the world tells you is valuable and start aligning with what truly matters to your soul. Money can buy comfort, but it can't buy contentment. It can buy entertainment, but not happiness. It can buy followers, but not friendship. It can buy medicine, but not health. There are people walking around with designer clothes, luxury cars, and the latest gadgets, but inside they're bankrupt. Not financially, but emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And then there are those who have very little in terms of possessions, yet they radiate gratitude. You sit with them for 5 minutes and you feel alive. They have something money can't buy: a deep appreciation for life itself. That's real wealth. Because real wealth isn't about accumulation, it's about appreciation. When you appreciate what you have, you step into abundance. When you stop living from a place of lack and start recognizing what's already within you, you become truly rich. We live in a world that's obsessed with the idea of more money, more status, more recognition. But if you don't have peace, what's the point of more? If your relationships are broken, your health is deteriorating, and your soul feels empty, then what are you really gaining? The truth is, the richest people on earth aren't the ones with the most money. They're the ones who need the least to feel complete. We've been taught to chase success instead of fulfillment, to chase possessions instead of purpose, to chase validation instead of vision. But that's why so many people reach the top of the mountain and realize it's the wrong mountain. They got everything they thought they wanted, but lost themselves in the process. Because when you chase money without meaning, you'll always end up empty. So what is true wealth? It's emotional freedom. It's the ability to stay centered no matter what's happening around you. It's being able to feel gratitude even when things aren't perfect. It's knowing that who you are matters more than what you have. It's living with purpose, giving with love, and being fully present in the moments that truly count. You can't take your bank account with you when you leave this earth. But what you can leave behind, your impact, your love, your contribution, that's the wealth that echoes through generations. The memories you create, the lives you touch, the hearts you lift, that's real legacy. And legacy is the highest form of wealth. Think about it. How many people do you know who are chasing money, yet losing themselves in the process? They're so busy making a living that they forget to make a life. They work 80 hours a week to buy things they don't need, to impress people who don't care, while neglecting the very people who would love them without a dollar to their name. That's not wealth. That's slavery. It's the illusion of success wrapped in the anxiety of constant comparison. True wealth starts when you make the shift from success to significance, from accumulation to appreciation, from having to giving. When you realize that happiness doesn't come from what you get, it comes from what you give, because giving activates the deepest part of your humanity. It expands your heart, your perspective, your joy. The more you give, the richer you feel. There's a power that comes from being grounded in gratitude. Gratitude turns what you have into enough, and enough into abundance. When you wake up every day and say, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I have opportunities, I have people I love, that's wealth. That's freedom. You can have nothing materially and still be overflowing internally. Because real wealth isn't about ownership, it's about alignment. It's when your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions are in harmony with your values. There are people who spent their whole lives trying to prove their worth through money. They've tied their identity to their net worth. But your worth isn't defined by your income, it's defined by your impact. You could lose all your money tomorrow, but if you have faith, love, gratitude, wisdom, and resilience, you'll rebuild. That's wealth no one can take from you. Money can amplify who you are, but it can't change who you are. If you're generous, money will make you more generous. If you're fearful, money will make you more anxious. It's just a magnifier. That's why the foundation must always be inner wealth, emotional intelligence, peace of mind, a grateful heart, and a clear sense of purpose. Because when your inner world is abundant, your outer world eventually follows. You can have money and still be poor if you don't know how to enjoy it. You can live in a mansion and still feel trapped. You can dine in the finest restaurants and still feel empty. The key is not to have more, but to feel alive, connected, inspired. That's where true wealth lives. Real wealth is in your ability to smile even when the world tests you. It's in your power to forgive when you could hold a grudge. It's in your courage to love again after being hurt. It's in your decision to grow when it's easier to give up. That's wealth. Because the greatest riches are those that expand the heart, not the wallet. The most powerful people in the world aren't those who control economies. They're those who control their emotions. When you master your inner state, you stop being a slave to external circumstances. You stop reacting and start creating. You start living from a place of strength instead of scarcity. And that shift, that's where freedom begins. Imagine this: if everything were taken from you tomorrow, but you still had faith, love, resilience, and vision, would you still feel wealthy? If your answer is yes, then you already understand what real wealth is. Because the moment you stop attaching your happiness to things that can be taken away, you become truly rich. At the end of the day, money can buy you choices, but it can't buy you clarity. It can't open doors, but it can't open your heart. It can build a house, but it can't build a home. It can fund your lifestyle, but not your life. Wealth is not about having, it's about being at peace, being grateful, being present. That's what makes you unstoppable. So don't just chase the illusion of wealth. Live in the reality of it. Cultivate it from within. Let your joy be your currency. Let your peace be your investment. Let your purpose be your profit. Because when your soul is full, you'll never live in lack again. And that right there is the kind of wealth no money can ever buy. Abundance doesn't start in your wallet. It starts in your mind. You can give two people the same opportunity, the same tools, the same amount of money, and one will multiply it while the other loses it all. Why? Because one sees abundance and the other sees limitation. One believes there's always a way and the other believes the system is against them. The truth is, wealth begins long before it shows up in your bank account. It begins in your thoughts, your beliefs, your perspective. You cannot attract abundance while thinking in scarcity. You cannot live rich while believing you're poor. Everything in life is energy, and your mindset directs where that energy flows. If your mind is constantly focused on what you lack, on what you don't have, what's missing, what's unfair, you'll live in that state of lack. You'll start to feel it, act on it, and eventually you'll create more of it. But when you shift your focus to what's possible, when you live from gratitude, when you start to believe that the universe is working with you, not against you, you step into a completely different frequency. That's where abundance begins to flow. People think abundance is about luck. They look at successful people and say, they're just lucky. But luck is nothing more than preparation meeting opportunity. The people who seem lucky are the ones who kept moving forward when others quit. They trained their minds to see possibility when others saw problems. Abundance doesn't happen to you. It's something you cultivate, something you condition yourself to see even in scarcity. If you think small, you'll live small. If you think limited, you'll live limited. Your outer world will always mirror your inner world. You can't expect to experience freedom when your mind is chained to fear. That's why changing your mindset isn't optional. It's essential. You've got to train your mind every day like an athlete trains their body. You've got to break the old patterns of lack, the stories that say, I'm not enough, I don't have enough, I'll never make it. Because those stories are lies, they're mental prisons, and the key to breaking out is awareness. You have to understand, money doesn't create abundance. Abundance creates money. It's the internal state that draws opportunities, ideas, and people into your life. You ever notice that when you're confident and grateful, things start to click, doors open, conversations flow, you attract the right people at the right time? That's not coincidence, that's mindset alignment. You become a magnet for possibility because you're operating from abundance, not anxiety. I've seen people go from nothing to everything, not because they suddenly got a miracle, but because they changed what they believed about themselves. When you believe you're meant for more, when you believe there's enough for everyone, when you believe you can grow, you start taking different actions. You stop playing small. You stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating it. That's the power of mindset. It changes your entire trajectory. Scarcity teaches you to hold tight, to play safe, to protect what little you think you have. But abundance teaches you to expand, to give, to grow. The scarcity mind says, if they win, I lose. The abundant mind says, if they win, we all win. Scarcity says, there's not enough. Abundance says, there's more where that came from. And whichever voice you listen to will determine your experience of life. When you live in scarcity, you hesitate, you overthink, you fear failure. You stop yourself before you even begin. You become trapped in analysis, waiting for certainty. But life doesn't reward hesitation, it rewards movement. Abundance is action-based. It's trusting that even if you don't see the full staircase, you take the first step anyway. Because deep down, you know that you'll figure it out. That's faith. That's abundance thinking in motion. Think about how often people sabotage their own growth because they think small. They say things like, I'll start giving when I have more, or I'll follow my dream when things settle down, or I'll invest in myself when I can afford it. But the truth is, you don't wait for abundance to show up. You create it. You give first. You move first. You invest first. That's how you tell the universe you're ready for more. Abundance responds to action, not hesitation. There's something magical that happens when you stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what if it does? That simple shift opens your energy. It gives you courage. It changes your posture, your tone, your behavior. And that's when the world starts responding differently to you. Because life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you believe you deserve. If you believe money is hard to make, it will be. If you believe opportunities are rare, they'll hide from you. But if you believe you're capable, resourceful, and deserving, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere. That's the secret. The world mirrors your mindset. You attract what you are, not what you wish for. Abundance isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about believing that everything has potential. Even in challenges, abundance thinkers look for lessons. They understand that problems are invitations to grow. They don't ask, why is this happening to me? They ask, what is this trying to teach me? That question transforms fear into power. And that power, that's wealth. You can spot an abundant person instantly. They walk differently. They carry themselves with calm confidence. They don't compete, they create. They don't compare, they celebrate. They give without fear because they know giving doesn't decrease them, it multiplies them. They understand that every act of generosity expands their capacity to receive. They live in flow, not in fight. That's what makes them unstoppable. When you operate from abundance, you're not chasing money, you're attracting it. You're not forcing outcomes, you're aligning with them. You're not surviving, you're thriving. You realize that the world is full of resources, opportunities, and ideas, and that there's no shortage of success. You stop waiting for permission and start writing your own script. The scarcity mindset says, I can't afford it. The abundant mindset says, how can I afford it? That one question changes everything. It shifts your brain from limitation to creativity. It forces you to look for solutions instead of problems. That's how innovators, entrepreneurs, and leaders think. They don't see obstacles, they see options. And that's why they keep winning. You have to protect your mindset like your life depends on it. Because it does. Your life will always rise or fall to the level of your thinking. If you fill your mind with doubt, fear, and negativity, don't expect your life to bloom. But if you fill it with faith, gratitude, and purpose, you'll start seeing abundance in places you never noticed before. It's not about ignoring reality, it's about seeing beyond it. When times are tough, abundance says, there's a way. When you lose, abundance says, there's a lesson. When things fall apart, abundance says, maybe this is falling into place. That's power, because abundance isn't built on circumstances, it's built on certainty. The certainty that no matter what happens, you can grow, adapt, and rise again. Money can come and go. Markets can rise and fall. But your mindset, that's permanent wealth. That's the foundation everything else is built on. You can take everything from someone who thinks abundantly and they'll rebuild it, because their wealth isn't tied to what they own. It's tied to who they are. So start conditioning your mind for abundance. Surround yourself with people who expand your thinking, not those who drain your belief. Feed your mind with ideas, not excuses. Speak words of growth, not limitation. Every time you catch yourself saying, I can't, replace it with, how can I? Every time you feel fear, lean into it with faith. Every time you feel lack, express gratitude. Because gratitude is the seed of abundance. It multiplies everything it touches. When you live in abundance, life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens for you. You stop seeing others as competition and start seeing them as inspiration. You realize there's no finish line because abundance isn't a destination. It's a state of being. It's how you see, how you act, how you live. You'll notice the world doesn't change immediately, but you do. Your energy shifts. You start making bolder choices. You start trusting your instincts. You start showing up differently. And eventually, life mirrors that new version of you. Opportunities begin to align. Doors start to open. People begin to notice your light. And that's when you realize abundance was never something you were chasing. It was something you were awakening. Because abundance doesn't begin with money. It begins with mindset. And when your mind is truly abundant, everything else follows. Purpose and contribution, these are the forces that transform existence into fulfillment. You can have all the money, all the recognition, all the success in the world, but if your life lacks purpose, you'll always feel something missing. Because purpose gives meaning to everything you do. It gives energy to your actions, clarity to your direction, and power to your presence. Without it, you're just moving, not progressing. You're surviving, not living. Purpose is what turns motion into momentum and wealth into impact. We live in a world where everyone's chasing success, but few are chasing significance. Everyone wants to get, but very few want to give. And yet, the deepest sense of fulfillment doesn't come from what you acquire. It comes from what you contribute. You can't truly feel rich until your life enriches others. The moment you start giving, you start living, because purpose and contribution are the heartbeat of real wealth. When you're driven by purpose, money becomes a byproduct, not the goal. It's not about how much you can make. It's about how much you can create, how much you can serve, how much you can leave behind. That shift changes everything. Suddenly, the work you do stops being a grind and starts being a gift. You stop chasing success and start attracting it because you're aligned with something bigger than yourself. Purpose is the fuel that never runs out. You can lose everything, status, money, possessions, but if you have purpose, you can rebuild it all. Purpose gives you resilience. It gives you the reason to keep going when things fall apart, because when you know why you're doing something, the how becomes easier. You stop being defined by circumstances and start being driven by conviction. Look at anyone who has truly made an impact in this world. People who've left legacies, who've moved hearts, who've inspired change. Every one of them was guided by a deep sense of purpose. They weren't just focused on what they could get out of life. They were obsessed with what they could give. They lived to serve, to uplift, to build, to heal. And in doing so, they found a wealth that no economy could measure. Contribution doesn't have to mean changing the whole world. It can mean changing someone's world. It's the small acts of kindness, the quiet moments of compassion, the choice to lift someone when it's easier to look away. That's contribution. That's purpose in motion. Because every time you give without expecting anything in return, you expand your soul. You remind yourself that you're connected to something greater than your individual gain. The tragedy is, so many people never discover their purpose because they're too focused on surviving. They think purpose is some grand mission reserved for a chosen few. But purpose isn't found in the extraordinary. It's found in the ordinary moments lived with intention. It's in the way you show up. It's in the way you love. It's in the way you use what you've been given to make life better for someone else. If you want to feel truly wealthy, ask yourself, who am I serving? How am I contributing? Because fulfillment doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from addition. The more you add value to the world, the richer you feel inside. That's the kind of wealth that expands every time you give it away. When you live with purpose, you stop needing validation. You don't need to prove anything, you just move. You stop measuring success by what you have and start measuring it by the difference you make. You stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. Because purpose gives you clarity, cuts through the noise. It gives you the courage to say no to distractions and yes to what truly matters. Contribution gives meaning to achievement. Without it, even victory feels hollow. You can climb to the top of the mountain, but if no one's life was better because you made it there, then what was the point of the climb? True fulfillment comes when your success becomes someone else's blessing, when your growth creates space for others to grow, when your abundance becomes a source of nourishment, not just satisfaction. There's a fire that ignites inside you when you realize your life can impact others, that your struggles can serve a purpose beyond your pain, that what broke you can bless someone else. That's what turns wounds into wisdom and effort into elevation. Every experience you've gone through, every heartbreak, every failure, every disappointment was preparing you to contribute in a deeper way. Because purpose is rarely born from comfort, it's born from challenge. When you start living for something bigger than yourself, fear begins to fade. Because fear can't survive in the presence of purpose. Fear is self-centered, it's all about what might happen to you. Purpose is outward, it's all about what can happen through you. And the moment you shift your focus from self to service, you tap into an energy that's unstoppable. That's when your life starts to move with flow instead of friction. And here's the beauty of it, contribution multiplies. The moment you give, you set off a chain reaction. You inspire others to do the same. Your one act of kindness can ripple through generations. You might never see the full impact, but it continues long after you're gone. That's legacy. That's real wealth, the kind that time can't erase. Too many people are waiting for the perfect time to give, the perfect plan to live their purpose. But purpose doesn't wait. It's activated in the now. It's not about being ready. It's about being willing. You discover it by stepping forward, not by standing still. You start by asking yourself, what breaks my heart? What excites my spirit? What can I do right now with what I have to make a difference? That's where purpose begins. You see, money without meaning will always feel empty. Success without service will always feel lonely. But when your achievements serve a higher calling, everything changes. Work becomes worship. Effort becomes joy. Goals become gifts. You stop chasing happiness because you realize it's a byproduct of contribution. Happiness comes when you grow and give. That's the natural rhythm of fulfillment. Grow so you can give. And give so you can grow. The secret to lasting prosperity isn't just creating income, it's creating impact. It's using what flows into your life to make something flow through your life. Because abundance stagnates when it's hoarded, but multiplies when it's shared. If you want to experience more, give more. If you want to receive love, give love. If you want to receive opportunity, create opportunity. It's a universal law. You reap what you sow, but you also expand what you sow. Purpose brings out the best in you because it demands that you rise above comfort. It stretches you. It pushes you to grow into the person who can carry the mission. That's why living with purpose isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. You'll face obstacles, doubt, rejection, but those challenges are shaping you for the impact you're meant to make. The strength you're building now will become the foundation for the lives you'll touch later. Contribution doesn't just change the world, it changes you. It awakens something sacred inside of you. It gives you joy that no achievement alone can offer. You start realizing that every day you're alive is another chance to add value, to serve, to love. And when you live like that, your life stops being about survival. It becomes a celebration. You want to feel alive. Stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? You want to feel powerful. Stop waiting for opportunities and start becoming one. You want to feel wealthy. Stop counting your possessions and start counting your blessings, because true wealth isn't about ownership. It's about stewardship. It's about using what you have to make life better for others. When you connect to purpose, you stop living on autopilot. You wake up every morning with fire in your heart because you know what you're doing matters. You stop competing and start creating. You stop chasing validation because you're already fulfilled from within. And that fulfillment radiates, it becomes contagious. People feel it. They're drawn to it. That's leadership. That's influence. That's legacy. And here's the ultimate truth: contribution doesn't take from you. It expands you. The more you give, the more you grow. The more you serve, the more strength you find. You realize that you were never meant to just survive. You were meant to serve, to shine, to lift. That's why the universe responds to those who give with pure intention, because giving aligns you with the flow of life itself. So don't just chase money. Don't just chase success. Chase purpose. Chase contribution. Because when you live from that space, you never run out, you overflow. You move from success to significance, from achievement to fulfillment, from having to becoming. And that's when you discover what real wealth truly is. Because at the end of it all, money fades, titles fade, possessions fade, but purpose and contribution live forever.